Good morning and welcome to another episode of The Extra Point here on ESPN 1600. I'm your host, Roland Rainey, and as always, I'm joined with Jeremy Coleman from Indiana, Robert Parker from New Jersey, and Justice Gordon from New York. And today's episode, I'm beyond excited and thrilled because we have a special guest for all of you, and our special guest is a former Tennessee Titan defensive back, also played in the XFL, with the LA Wildcats. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Extra Point, Ladarius Wiley. How are we doing today, Ladarius?
We're doing well. Thank you guys for having me. I really do appreciate this platform and being able to share.
Well, good. We're happy to have you here, and I'm quite sure the folks listening in are very curious to hear about your story and how you got your start and where you currently at and where you are looking to go at, what your future aspirations are. So looking at your background, Ladarius, I'm quite sure May of 2019 was beyond exciting for you because that's when you actually had a rookie tryout with the Tennessee Titans out at St. Thomas Sports Park. And then shortly thereafter, you were signed to the Tennessee Titans. Can you explain to us what was that experience like?
It was a great experience. Definitely a blessing to have that opportunity to be able to get the tryout. John Robinson from the first day said, guys aren't guaranteed spots and, you're going to have to take somebody else's job. And that weekend, I just went in with a worker's mentality and just, did what I knew I could do, and that was play football. And ultimately, I was blessed to be able to get that spot. And John Robinson looked at me and told me, he said, you took somebody's job. And that was just a great feeling to me, knowing that I was meant to be there, I carried myself that way, and I believed that I was meant to be there. So I put the work behind it, and I showed up. I didn't have any excuse, as to, if I felt like I should have been a priority free agent or I should have been drafted. But, I took, that opportunity and made the most of it, and definitely had the opportunity to be with the Titans throughout training camp.
So when you were going through training camp, and of course the Tennessee Titans are doing absolutely great right now.
Yes, sir.
What was it like as a defensive back to be going up against someone like a Henry, knowing that this guy is a beast and he's, trucking his way towards your direction? What was that experience like?
Well, trust me, I can tell you, I knew all of this before anybody else did. With that camp, being with that team, being with that defense, and then going against that offense, I was able to experience that AFC Championship team and sort of see the work that was put in, the groundwork that was put in during camp to be able to see the results. So I already knew what was going to happen. I knew what type of team it was. I knew that it was a blue-collar team, and I knew that they were going to run the ball and win late in the game. And, just for the world to see it, was amazing because, I feel like I was a part of that team, being a part of training camp. But the leadership, the wisdom gained from that team is unmatched with the defensive backs that I was able to sort of train under with Kevin Byard and Kenny Vaccaro. Then to have coaches like Scott Booker and Kerry Combs, and then Coach Vrabel, very intelligent football minds.
Now, you speaking of those, defensive backs in the secondary and Kenny Vaccaro and Kevin Byard, I'm going to go ahead and put this out. I'm an SEC homer. So could you tell the audience how, the SEC style of play helped you transition to the NFL? Like, it's a narrative out there saying, the SEC is a developmental league for the NFL. So can you explain to our audience of how grueling the SEC is and how that helped you prepare for the NFL?
It truly is the best of the best. Every week in and week out, there is no down period, especially me playing at Vanderbilt. We were playing the Bamas, the Floridas, the Georgias, the Kentuckys, the Tennessee, the Auburns, the LSUs, those teams week after week, and you're going up against high caliber players. So you look at the league now, you look at the top rookie receivers and sophomore receivers. I was playing against, DK Metcalf year after year at Ole Miss. I was playing against A.J. Brown year after year at Ole Miss. I was playing against, Joe Burrow was a younger guy, didn't play at LSU, but you play against those guys later on. Then you got a Derrick Henry coming out of Alabama. You got to play against him. When I was there, it was Bo Scarborough, it was a young Najee Harris, and then with a Tua and a Jalen Hurts playing at Alabama, with also Jerry Jeudy, Henry Ruggs, and players of that caliber. So, week after week, you're playing against high caliber guys, big name guys in the league right now. And I think it generally translates to the league because you see the guys now from the SEC are producing in the league. And I had the opportunity to face those guys every week. So I think that the SEC sort of has a leg up, I would say, from any other conference of preparing you for the NFL, whether on the field or off the field, being a professional in the way we carry ourselves and, practice in the film room and then ultimately game day.
All right, so we've established that you've played for Vanderbilt now. Me coming from my recruiting background, I'm always fascinated to hear how you chose Vanderbilt and how you got recruited. So if you could just tell the audience, how you played in high school, who you were recruited by, and why you ended up choosing to play for Vanderbilt.
Yes, sir. Well, in high school, I was actually an offensive guy. I didn't actually play defense until my senior year. I was a receiver, and I was supposed to go to the Pac-12 to play receiver. And, just looking forward and my career-wise, I wanted to have longevity in my career, so I wanted to go the defensive way. And actually, Coach Mason was at Stanford at the time. I was playing around, played corner at a 7-on-7 at Loyola. He came and saw me, and, I was playing pretty good. So he came to my school. They watched my film that year, the previous year, and then they decided to offer me at Stanford. And then Mason ends up going to Vanderbilt. And, everything with Stanford didn't sort of translate once he left. So now it was sort of the best out-of-state option. So it went from Northwestern, Vanderbilt, Virginia, Duke, and schools of that caliber. So I was always a smart guy, had a 3.9 in high school. So I always wanted to go to a school that would sort of be on par with my education. So Vanderbilt had the chance to play in the SEC, had the chance to, go to an academic school, which I ended up getting 2 degrees from, and then just to be able to play the best and put me in the best position to be able to go to the NFL and then a 40-year career after. Because they have the saying at Vanderbilt to think 40, not 4 years. And I think that definitely helped me out.
So as a quick follow-up to that, how did you feel about Coach Mason just recently getting let go at Vanderbilt?
Well, that's my guy, Mason, giving me the opportunity to be able to go to a university, travel the world, get 2 degrees from there. I was dealing with the passing of my father in 2018 while I was at Vanderbilt and ended up playing days after for Coach Mason because he was that kind of guy that I would go to battle with week in and week out. So I can only, speak to his class, to him being a genuine guy, to him offering godly wisdom, and just him being an overall, leader of men.
Awesome stuff right there.
Hey, Ladarius, appreciate you joining us today.
Yes, sir.
One thing that really sticks out, to me from your game is your tackling ability, in open space, in the box and everything like that. And, I've seen you play, single high and, coming down and laying a hit to a receiver over the middle. I've seen you, play that hybrid linebacker type around the line of scrimmage. I'm just wondering, for the people out there, is there a specific spot you prefer, whether it's the single high or the hybrid, or the cornerback position, the slot position? Is there a really position you prefer to play?
No, sir. I sort of hang my hat on being a versatile player, but in my versatility, being a true safety. What I mean by that is I can play strong free. I can play dime. I could play will. I can play money backer. I actually started at Vanderbilt at corner and nickel. But what I mean by playing with the true safety mentality is I've always played with the mentality of communicating, being the quarterback on the defense, getting guys lined up, being able to recognize what the offense is doing and putting my guys in position to make plays, and then knowing the holes of my defense and where the offense is trying to attack us. So that's sort of the mentality I play with, but I can play any position on the defense. I ended up playing outside linebacker as well in the XFL. So I sort of pride myself in, being ready and, playing at whatever position, a defensive coordinator wants me to play.
Just to
Good
piggyback
stuff.
off of Justice's question, Ladarius, just like Justice said, your physicality in your game, is at an all-time high. I watch a lot of SEC football, and I saw you got a targeting call and you got ejected one game. So, with the rules changing in the NFL, how do you brace yourself for, those across the middle, compacts with receivers or running backs with the rule changing?
Yes, sir. Well, I've always played with the mentality, to punch somebody in the mouth, to go all the way through, strike through, and to bring my feet and, just to run through players. That's just the mentality that I play with. But also being a smart football player, now you have to put yourself in position to protect yourself and to protect other players. And that's why I sort of love defense, because you can control how you hit people. And I think that's the thing that we're sort of focusing on right now with player safety, is how we hit people. And I still don't believe in the targeting call that I received at Vanderbilt, but ever since then, I've been working on it. If you followed the film, the week after we played against Nevada, and I sort of had a similar hit on the sideline, but that time, went through with my shoulder, went through the strike zone, and still ran through the player, and still, was able to make a big hit, but a safe hit. So I think that's one of the things that the league is sort of focusing on, and protecting defensive and offensive players. And I know some defensive guys don't like it because, it sort of takes away from, them and their mentality when hitting people, because you sort of have to second guess yourself in the way you want to hit people. But I enjoy it. You're still able to make an impact. You're still able to be a physical player. You just have to know where to strike and when to strike and how to strike.
Ladies and gentlemen, you're listening to The Extra Point here on ESPN 1600. And today we are joined with Ladarius Wiley, coming out of Vanderbilt, was a former Tennessee Titan. And now I have to ask the question. You also played in the XFL with the LA Wildcats. What was that experience like?
It was an experience. It was definitely an experience. Funny thing is, hindsight, you look at it, it was a blessing in disguise, because, pride is a heck of a thing. You let your pride get in the way and you say, I'm supposed to be in the NFL, but, it's not happening for me right now. And you're looking at the XFL, you don't want it to be in another AAF and shutting down. You don't know the caliber of players. And this is sort of the thinking that I had. Unknowingly, it would be the blessing that I needed to get film, to meet a great coaching staff, to meet a family of players that were sort of going through the same struggle that I was going through. And it totally became a blessing. We were all learning together. As you know, it was the first year of the league. So everybody's learning while we're on the go. So rules are changing and you're in camp, and, a rule might change that day and you have to sort of adjust. And I think that sort of helped me as a professional, to always be on my toes and just to be ready for change and to be a professional through that, and to still, make an impact in the game. And overall, I definitely appreciate the XFL because, I did what I need to do. I got the film, I got an interception, I got a blocked punt. And, I got film on special teams that I wouldn't have had if I didn't do it. I got film on defense that I wouldn't have had if I didn't do it. And looking back, especially with the pandemic, if I didn't do it, I wouldn't have any film at all. The only last film that I would have had would have been from Vanderbilt or from the preseason. And I definitely appreciate the XFL for giving me the opportunity, and especially Winston Moss, who was the head coach of the LA Wildcats, along with Otis Smith and Martin Bayless, who are the DB coach and the special teams coach.
So at this juncture, you've been a Tennessee Titan, you've played in the XFL as an LA Wildcat member. What's the next step? What are you looking at right now, especially being a free agent? What do you have your eyes on?
The eyes have always been on the NFL, always been on getting back to the NFL. And I've prepared myself. I've stayed ready, stayed in playing shape, not just shape to get there, but playing shape, so that when I get there, I'm making an impact. I'm being able to run to the ball. I'm being able to, seek the ball and make turnovers. I'm able to, do the scout team, do the special teams, do things of that nature, and just getting myself mentally, to be able to jump back in and to learn a playbook and to watch film and to do things of that nature. So that has always been the goal as the NFL, but, also venturing off and, using my 2 degrees that I have. I got a master's in education at Vanderbilt. So, pursuing that, knowing that I'm not, a one-sided guy, but that I have avenues in other areas that I can tap into, and using those resources, to sort of come through fruition. So doing that, and then also looking into opening up a podcast, actually. So, doing what you guys do, getting up here, asking questions, and, just having a good time and, hearing stories.
Man, that is great to hear. And as an education guy myself, it's beyond exciting to see someone like you who is taking advantage of the education that they did get from a very prestigious university. Now, having said all of that, let's get to the crux of it.
Mm-hmm.
You're a free agent. Hey, there's a lot of guys out there who are going down with injuries, especially in this very unique COVID environment that we're in. You have the mic, you have the platform right now to talk to head coaches and general managers. What do you want to tell them, and why should they be looking at you and signing you to a roster right now?
Yes, sir. Well, I pride myself in being a professional and being genuine. You're going to get no problems from me, no attitudes. I'm always smiling, and I'm just about my business and doing my job, letting players come to me, being where I'm supposed to be on the field, and just showing up and having fun while doing it. I've always had a worker's mentality, and I've always prided myself in being consistent in what I do. So what you see on film isn't just going to be a one-play thing. It's going to be a consistent thing of me showing up, making tackles, making plays, hunting the ball, because at the end of the day, football is about the ball. So, at the end of the day, I'm hunting for the ball. I'm coachable. I soak up all the information that I can. I never think that I know it all, and I apply the info, that coaches give me, and I pride myself in doing that. I'm an intelligent guy. I can pick up the playbook. I study my butt off. I'm versatile. I told you that I can play free. I can play strong. I can play dime. I can play will. I can play whatever they want me to play. And, I'm just giving my all. I'm working to get there, and I will work to stay there once I'm there. And, nothing, has been given to me. I've always had to work for everything. And I just appreciate any opportunity that comes from this. And they're going to get my all.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, once again, we are joined today with Ladarius Wiley, former Tennessee Titan, also former XFL LA Wildcats player, who is a free agent looking to get back on that path in the NFL. And I tell you, Ladarius, we here at the Extra Point, we wish you the very best. You definitely have the right mind, level head about the business. And I love the defensive mentality. Want to punch guys in the mouth, and
Yes,
always a ball hunter. So you can't expect anything else from a defensive player. Once again, thanks for joining us today. And we'll keep our eye out for you. And we wish you nothing but the best.
Thank you guys for having me. I really do appreciate it.
Ladies and gentlemen, that was Ladarius Wiley, former defensive back for the Tennessee Titans and the LA Wildcats. And I tell you, I think that young man has a bright future ahead of him, very level head. And I love the fact that he's also thinking about that education piece and how to utilize that if the NFL doesn't pan out. But I don't know. I got a sneaky suspicion that he's going to be signed to a team and back in the NFL. So let's go ahead and jump into something that I think is beyond crazy right now, but it is so critical, and that is the NFL's response to the uptick of COVID positive cases in the NFL right now. I don't know, guys. I'm looking at what has been going on. There's a bunch of funny memes out there about the Steelers and the Ravens. We went from a Sunday night game to a Monday night, Tuesday game to a Wednesday afternoon game, which I'm telling you, that was the weirdest thing, is to sit there on a Wednesday afternoon and watch a NFL game with an empty stadium. This is the world we live in right now. And I'm very curious to see what your guys' take is on this, because when you look at what happened with that game, and then, oh my God, what happened with the Denver Broncos, it is beyond interesting on how the NFL is handling this. I don't know. What's your guys' take on this?
Well, if you were fortunate enough to listen to the halftime interview with Roger Goodell, the basic thing he's come out and said is that they are going to be sticking to the protocols that they established with the NFLPA in the beginning of the season to ensure that all of these games are played. He made it a very specific point that all of these games will be played right now and that they will be sticking to the protocols that they established. Now, the situations in Denver, were different from the situation in Baltimore. Denver, the COVID virus was contained to the quarterback room, which is very unique. With Denver having to call up Kendall Hilton from the practice squad, a former college quarterback, but who had been playing receiver, to go play quarterback for a day, as to where in Baltimore, the virus was sweeping through that roster. Started out with Lamar Jackson, then the running backs, then the defensive line, then a linebacker. So I think their response was appropriate, that they had to move those games for the safety of the players. They had to at least try to contain the virus within Baltimore and at least try to get those players back to a stage where they were healthy enough to play. That's why you saw, Baltimore was down something like 12 starters on Wednesday this week. That's why Pittsburgh was down 3 starters this week. But at the end, Roger Goodell said these games are going to be played. I think you're going to see a lot more movement as far as the schedule and stuff goes, just to be flexible with this virus. I think this is just the beginning of what could be a very weird end to the season.
Yeah, I'm definitely with you there, and I think what we experienced last week is unique unto itself. I am happy that the Broncos front office leadership did take appropriate action to hold the quarterbacks accountable and not just leave it up to the league. So kudos to the Broncos staff for doing that. Not because I just want to switch up the gears real quick, but I do want to jump on another topic besides COVID, and that is the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and what in the world is going on with Tom Brady and Bruce Arians. Look, let's call it what it is. You have a head coach who has been handed a Hall of Famer on a platter. And for whatever reason, he loves going in front of the camera to call out his Hall of Fame quarterback. I don't know. I'm looking at Justice and his facial expressions. It looks like Justice has something to say. So, Justice, what's on your mind here?
Yeah, I'm going to be blunt real quick on this subject. I think Tom Brady has gotten coddled his entire career. He's the greatest quarterback of all time. He has the trophies, he has all of that. But coming from Bill Belichick, who is so reserved, he doesn't like to talk to the media. He doesn't like to, spread his business and the Patriots' business in the media. Tom Brady has been sheltered up to this point. Coming to Tampa Bay to a coach like Bruce Arians, who holds people accountable. We saw it with Antonio Brown when they signed him. He said at that first press conference, if he doesn't act right, he's going to be gone. He's a coach that lives by a specific code. And, let's face it, Tom Brady hasn't played his best football these past few weeks. The last 4 weeks, he's thrown 7 interceptions. He has all the talent in the world, but yet he hasn't put it together completely. He has a top 3 defense, and he's still playing, kind of iffy. So I love Arians. I love what he's doing. I don't blame him at all for calling out Tom Brady. It's something that, people can, pick at, but, I love that type of coaching. You got to hold players accountable, and that's what successful teams do.
Yeah, I'm right there with you, Justice. I definitely agree with your statement in regards to Tom Brady kind of being coddled. But once again, he is the GOAT. But I think this comes down to a different philosophies. You have Bruce Arians, who's a head coach who likes to throw the ball downfield. And, Tom Brady, he's more of a dink and dunk guy. He's really doesn't have that type of running back that the Patriots normally have in the James White or Rex Burkhead or, Sonny Michel, a scat back that can catch the ball out of the backfield. And one thing I can tell you about this Tampa Bay Buccaneers is that they don't run the ball enough. I tell you that. Ronald Jones is definitely one of the leading rushers in the NFL, but for some reason it seems like he goes missing in games, and he's on the sideline. So it's just like, okay, you have Ronald Jones or Rojo on the sideline, and you have Leonard Fournette in the game, and you're throwing the ball down the field. So I just think it's a different philosophy. But Bruce Arians did come out and say that, Tom Brady is in control of the play call and moving forward. They're calling what Brady wants. And I think, that's going back to Peyton Manning when, Peyton Manning goes to the sideline and he actually kind of called the game from the huddle and from the line of scrimmage. So I think we're going to see a better improved Tom Brady and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers moving forward. But once again, this is a COVID year. He hasn't had a lot of time to work out with the receivers. So they're actually working out the kinks during the season, and they're 7-5. So I'm not putting too much stock in this that, the Bruce Arians and Tom Brady relationship is going downhill. I really just think Bruce Arians is being hard on Tom Brady, and it's going to bring the best out of Brady, making that playoff push.
Well, and I think one other thing to remember is that both Bruce Arians and Tom Brady are ultra competitors. They want to win. They want to bring the best out in one another. I'm going to add a little bit on to what you said, Robert. To start the season, it seemed like they were trying to put a square peg through a round hole. They were asking Tom Brady to make throws that he has not made a ton of, that he made a ton of in in New England. So now he comes down to Tampa Bay. I understand he has to learn a new offense, make some throws he's not used to. But the best coaches go with what their players are best at. Brady is the best at dinking and dunking and controlling the passing game underneath. He's not a guy who usually pushes the ball vertically. So I do think they need to get more to that. And like you alluded to, that's where they're supposed to be going here.
This is where, and I totally agree with all of your assessments. But to your point, Jeremy, too often when you get a player like Tom Brady handed to you, you try to take your playbook and morph it to the individual. I think this is a case where they need to take the talents of the individual and morph their playbook to that instead. And I think they can find some great success. Look, let's be honest here. Their running game, when it's on fire, it's on fire. But they got to go to it a little bit more often, take the pressure off Tom Brady, get back to the dink and dunk. And then, hey, when your shots are there downfield, take those shots. And when they're not there, go back to the running game. Try to continue to work on that defense. And I do believe they will be there when it's all said and done. But it's just going to take time. And I will agree with Bruce Arians. I think the moment that Tom Brady and Gronk went down to Tampa, you add that with Evans, and then you sign AB, to his comment. At that point, people just figured just go ahead and hand them the Lombardi trophy because of all the talent. And I think what you've seen is that it takes time to get the timing down. And of course, in this COVID environment, you didn't have that training camp where you can work on the timing. You don't have the practices weekly where you can work on that timing. A lot of the practices are through Zoom and going through charting playbooks and so forth. So I definitely see that being an issue, but I do believe when it's all said and done, they'll be there in the very end. Ladies and gentlemen, you have been listening to The Extra Point here on ESPN 1600. I'm your host, Roland Rainey, and once again, you were joined with Jeremy, Robert, and Justice. Hope you enjoyed listening to our guest speaker today, Ladarius Wiley. Once again, I think he's a phenomenal talent, and he'll get his shot back in the NFL. And let's keep an eye on Tampa Bay this upcoming week and see what happens. Let's see if they can get that running game on track, maybe get Tom Brady to dink and dunk, and hopefully see them playing some great football based on the talent that they got. Once again, thanks for listening in, and have a great week.